Hey everyone, welcome to the beginning of Chapter 4. To start us off to set the feeling and mood, I have a story written by Mav, our player who used to be Dosh. I'm starving. Noona Qualm watched a heavily manicured hand lift a finger of whiskey worth more than her life to a pair of lips that masked the canines of a predator, or so she assumed. About the teeth, not the whiskey. Tyfe Rayland watched her with unblinking eyes. The silence stretched out, and Noona coughed just to fill the space. She was as used to unease as she was to the little black dress that Tyfe demanded she wear. That is to say, not at all. Noona was always in control, and if she wasn't in control, she could rely on her wits. Or her guns. Usually her guns. I know we're supposed to just talk business, but I couldn't help myself. I just had to get you... He paused, taking another sip of his drink. Tyfe leaned forward to finish a statement, but the waiter appeared, seemingly out of thin air. An old man, with posture straighter than a Corleone crossbow bolt, produced a bottle of wine. It appeared older than the city itself. What she could see of the label under a heavy layer of dust wasn't much. Brown and faded, an old Rethi language she couldn't read. This will be fine, Delium. She watched the waiter pour a small measure of a blood-red wine for both of them. She reached for it. What's the deal, Tyfe? I don't like these games. They aren't helping your cause. Tyfe downed the rest of his whiskey, handed the empty crystal glass to Delium the waiter, and picked up the wine. He brought the long-stemmed glass to his nose and inhaled deeply. This vintage always reminds me of home. Swirling the wine, he watched it with heavy eyes. Sometimes I think maybe I've associated this wine with home for so long that it's all in my head. If you aren't going to talk business, then I'm out. Noona set the wine down and started to push out her chair when she heard the sound of a glass breaking. At the table next to them sat an elderly void and a lithe android, except the android was standing up, his arm outstretched. There was a strange black fluid dripping off the pristine tablecloth, pooling onto the blue and gold floor. It looked like the android just dropped his drink straight down onto the table. The void had a look of confusion mixed with worry on their face. The android looked around. I don't know why I did that. Noona felt a strange tickle up her spine. She slowly reached under the table. Stuck to the underside was a gun. One she took great precaution to secure there days before this meeting. She felt for the cold metal, giving her a bit of confidence, a bit of that control she hungered for. Look, Noona, drink and enjoy the company. Soon the food will arrive. We'll have all night to talk shop. He gave her a crooked smile. Anyways, what do Corleans usually eat? They're young, Noona replied, all too eager to leave. Tyfe laughed a joyless laugh. Rehearsed is what Noona would call it. Here she sat across from the richest man on the continent, and probably the entire plane, and she could see right through him. She wondered how he got so rich. Obviously he hadn't dealt with many Corleone Rangers, but he was rich, and she needed funds. Noona picked up the wine and downed the entire glass. Well, if that is the case, Tyfe, we're going to need more wine. They ate, and drank, and talked, and drank some more. Tyfe was a gentleman for the most part. Noona kept him at a distance, and the hidden gun near her thoughts. It wasn't until the waiter had taken their plates that Tyfe finally said, All right, let's talk. He reached into his vest pocket and pulled out a pack of expensive cigarettes. Real ones, not those nanosticks. The waiter again appeared like an apparition, but this time he produced a lighter. He flicked it with deft hands and lit Tyfe's cigarette. Tyfe drew on it lightly, flipped it in his hand, and held it out for Noona. She waved him away. He shrugged and waved the waiter away. Let me start. Noona sat forward, put her elbows on the table, and folded her arms in front of her. You thought the ex-Marine would feel uncomfortable in a place this expensive. The dress would mean I couldn't conceal any weapons. You want me to be constantly on the back foot, trying to keep up with you. To you, business is war, and you have the home field advantage. She reached her hand out, and Tyfe placed the half-smoked cigarette between two calloused fingers. Noona took a long drag and then handed it back. It won't work. Tyfe smiled, probably the first real smile he'd given Noona this night. You're pretty savvy, Miss Qualm. I can see I chose well. Tyfe didn't move, he simply held out a hand, and a glass full of the same whiskey as before was handed to him. The waiter bowed before leaving. For most people, that would be pretty spot on, except you aren't most people, Noona finished for him. You keep impressing me. Tyfe took a drink. He didn't move, but his entire demeanor seemed to change before her. His eyes grew sharp, his very presence seemed to grow threatening, like an ambushed predator moments before the leap. I wanted you here because I enjoy nice things. I wanted you to wear that dress because Corleone fatigues clash with the decor. And most importantly, Noona Qualm, business is war. But I never fight my own wars. In perfect unison, every single patron of Dev Ulriam stood and turned towards Noona. and just as fast as Noona ripped the gun from under the table and had it pointed directly between Tyfe's cold eyes. "Finally, now, we can talk business," Tyfe said as he put his cigarette out on the tablecloth. "I want you to find Azrael Dawn and bring him to me. And if I do," Noona's arm was steady. The gun did not waver. "You will become a very rich woman. And if I don't," Tyfe smiled, a very real and terrifying smile, "then you'll have to kill everyone in this restaurant."